Right, there we go. Oh, you bugger. Hello and welcome back to the What the Folk Sunderland preview podcast ahead of this weekend's game against Hull City at the Stadium of Light. As you can probably tell, I'm not feeling very well, and it was a rough old night at Elland Road as well on Monday. But we do welcome another Yorkshire-based side this week, and 3 points do feel like a must. It's a different Hull City side that we are likely to face than the one we last saw, but to run us through what's going to be going on with Hull over the next few days is, as always, the lovely Ant from To Hull and Back. Ant, save my voice, mate. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I've just been to the gym, so my shoulders are a bit sore, my arms. It was an upper and core, so feeling it. But yeah, I love talking about City every week and how crap we are at the minute. So yeah, really looking forward to this. Yeah.
I definitely have not been to the gym for what it's worth. I've pulled myself out of bed just to chat to you and definitely take that as a compliment.
Oh, I do. I'm honoured.
Look, you arrive at the stadium like one place above the relegation spots. You've kind of touched on it a little bit there, but the points are clearly as valuable to you as they are to us. So let's look at your first game, or your last game, sorry. 1-1 draw Norwich last weekend. How was the performance and the result?
Um, we're weird, you know. First 20 minutes, we were absolutely superb. This is a Norwich side that completely dismantled us, albeit was under the previous manager, who was a bit of a Looney Tune, but Norwich came here and I think expected to sort of roll us over, and I think we went with the different, because we got it totally wrong against Burnley. Selles came out, and I appreciate when a manager comes out and takes accountability for when they've got the system wrong or the personnel wrong, something the last manager never did. But Selles came out straight away and said, look, I got the press totally wrong. They just played around us. We were chasing shadows for 90 minutes. So he changed it up. He went for two players up top. So he sort of pushed Matt Crooks up a bit higher alongside Pedro to do a two-man press with four behind him rather than a three at the top. And it worked. I think it caught Norwich by surprise. First 15, 20 minutes, we could have been 2 or 3 up. But that's the story of our season. We have periods of games where we're well on top, can score goals, might score one of them, and that'll be the only goal we score for the rest of the game. And we don't keep clean sheets. So that's a problem, because it means that we have to score at least 2 to win a game, which we've done a couple of times, but not often enough. Obviously, we did 3 against Sheffield United and we did 3 against Leeds. So the decent sides, Burnley obviously excluded because no one can score against Burnley apparently, we do pretty well. But yeah, we were good for 20 minutes against Norwich, and then they sort of turned up the heat, got a bit of an impetus, the foothold in the game, and it was pretty much they were the better side for the majority of it. But we defended well up until I think 30 seconds of the restart in the second half, where we conceded another sloppy goal. And then, we're walking away with a point at home, but a point is more than what we usually get at home. So we take that because Norwich are a decent side, but we're much better away. So we actually look forward to the away games a lot more than we do the home ones. So this weekend's one's going to be a really interesting one.
If people aren't aware, the home form and away form thing's really interesting. But before I get to it, because that's something that really sort of took me back, you don't see it very often, which I'm teasing here, so you stay longer than 15 minutes. I've asked the same question to so many people on the preview show this year, but I suppose that's a symptom of football. Before we talk about the new manager, we'll get into why the last one left. When you were on the show previously, you discussed how Tim Walter just kind of adopted attack at all costs, and he did, to be honest. He lasted 18 games, he won 3, drew 6, lost 9. I think I know the answer to this because we speak obviously privately, but for the people who don't know, why did that reign go so wrong so fast?
I think it's because there's a very alarming trend at the minute where modern managers don't have adaptability. They don't change. It is, I'm going to play it this way. This is my system. And if it doesn't work, then the players must be the problem, not my system. But I'm always in the camp of, if you're a football manager, it's your job to get the best out of the players you've got. So if your system doesn't suit those players, you need to change your system to suit them. He never did. He never once came away from a game and admitted that the system was maybe beyond the players' capabilities, that he shouldn't have done, i.e. going to Norwich away from home and playing like we did and getting absolutely trashed 4-0. It still wasn't his problem. It was the players. They're not doing what I asked them to do. And this is a problem, like when you're never the person in the wrong, when you're never the person coming out and admitting that, this shouldn't have happened this way, or I shouldn't have done it this way, I maybe should have done that. Fans appreciate that. When you don't do it, you lose that bit of understanding from the fans, that bit of empathy. And then when it got to about Norwich, because mostly the fans were kind of, because we had such a chaotic summer. I can't remember if I mentioned it last time I was on with you, but our transfer business in the summer was so late and so chaotic that, we lost so many really good players. I mean, look at Delap at the minute, ripping it up in the Premier League, Jacob Greaves, etc. We lost so many really top players, and we never ever replaced them. You were never going to replace players of that caliber. But doing it so late already put Volta on the backhand, because we'd been 4 or 5 games into the season before he had the team that he wanted. So then you've got to wait an extra few games for him to get used to it. So we kind of had a bit of leeway with that from the fans. But then it got to a point where it got kind of tedious. Like you say, he got the 3 wins, but they were 3 wins in a row. We literally won, I think it was against Cardiff, Stoke and QPR, and then never won again. And he never changed it. It started to turn toxic at Oxford away, I think was the turning point, because to me, once you lose the fans, that's it. It's game over. It's only ending one way. The owner kept coming out and publicly backing him and saying his job's safe. I believe in what he's doing. We've been unlucky with injuries, and I take a responsibility for the transfer window. I've left him short-handed and stuff like this. But then Oxford away, when we lost really poorly 1-0, and he didn't even go over to the fans, didn't even acknowledge them, and that was it. That's where it turned for him. I think a few of the fans in the ground started chanting towards him, and from that point, he never recovered. It was toxic in the stadium. It was toxic at away days. We went away to Luton and lost as well. Teams that are around us that you need to be going and getting points from at least. We just weren't. We were rolling over, and it was the same all the time. And then the Sheffield Wednesday home game came around, and we'd all had enough, because the international break had been and gone. We thought he'd be sacked in the international break and replaced, which is a logical time to sack somebody. He didn't. He waited until afterwards, came out on the radio before the Sheffield Wednesday game and said, even if he loses today, his job's safe, to which everyone was like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. But he actually attended the Sheffield Wednesday game and saw the toxicity in the stadium when we lost 2-0. And after the stadium, I think it was literally the next day he was sacked. So I think it was literally the fans' opinion that made the owner take the action he did. But if we'd have had Selles from the start of the season, I think we're not in this issue. I think even if we'd have brought Selles in the international breaks, we had those 2 weeks to implement his style, we might be a few points better off as well. But it's just an absolute car crash of a season, and Tim Volta was definitely the wrong appointment, and he's really set us on a really bad place to try and, for Selles to try and fix, really.
I think when you look at like Sheffield last year and you see the job Danny Rule done, it's not quite the same, but because Sheffield were quite far back, but you can't afford to waste sort of 18 games. But looking at the new guy, Ruben Selles, it feels like he's bounced around a lot. He had the time at Southampton, but I think he's up against Schitt's Creek, to be honest. Slightly better time at Reading, had an almost 50% win rate. He's got the whole gig. I know you're not going to judge him after 14 games, but sounds like the initial impressions are quite good.
Yeah. Oh, it's actually nice watching a team that's got cohesion, organisation, structure, a clear identity, adaptability. The tactics change, the rotations make sense. The only criticism I've got to say is at the minute is sometimes his subs are a bit off. Like players who are playing really well, he takes them off for some bizarre reason. But he's still a young manager, early in his managerial career. Like you say, he was at Southampton, but he was interim because obviously Hasenhüttl got sacked and he was a number 2. But he's done a fantastic job at Reading. They got relegated from the Championship and they had a transfer embargo, points deductions. He kept them up. They've not been able to sign a player for 3 or 4 years. He brought players in from the youth academy and Adam. When we took him, they were in the top 6, and this is a club that are in financial straits, can't sign players, and he had them in the top 6 in what is a very competitive League One. So when you see that kind of hire, you think, yeah, that's real ambition, because we could have quite easily gone for a Stephen Schumacher who's out of a job, etc. Alex Neil, somebody like that. But he showed a bit of backbone, I think, in going for someone like Selles. It was a bit of a statement, and like we say, he's not really managed at this level, so you can see he's still learning. But there's enough there for me that if we stay up this season, next season would be far better under Sayers. You can see what he's trying to do. He's been really unlucky, like you say, with the injuries carried over from the Walter era, like losing Miller and Bellumi for a full season with their ACLs. Charlie Hughes, our best defenders, injured as well. Casey Palmer still not back. We've had real unlucky with injuries. So, but like we say, if we can just turn that home form around, I think that's that is definitely the biggest hurdle he's got. But that's not just a Ruben Selles problem. That's been for the last few years, as the home form has been absolutely dire since we got promoted back from League One. But that as soon as we fix the home form, we're fine. And like I say, if we have Sayers next season, if we stay up, I think we'll have a much more successful season next year.
touched on the home form. I think, look, I follow a few Hull fans online alongside yourself, and I know how bad it's been. But then when I looked at it, I went, "All right, I didn't think it was that bad." So
Yeah.
let's look at this season. You've played 17, you've won two.
Mm.
Away from home, you've won 5 and 15. That's 1/3 of away games. If you've got the answer, you'll probably be the manager. But I'm going to ask the question anyway. Why are Hull better away from home?
No idea. It is the biggest conundrum in the fan base. The atmosphere has dipped, but I do think that fans are reactive. So when we're turning up to home games, and this is back to last year as well, even under Rosinia, where we finished seventh, our home form was poor. I think we had the fourth best away record in the league last year, but we were like 13th or 12th for the home record. It is a problem that is beyond whatever manager. We always have different managers, different players, different tactics, different systems, and it's always the same results. Some people are just saying knock the stadium down and start again because it might be cursed. But realistically, I don't know. I think at the minute it must be a mentality thing. I think the players subconsciously go into a game and know our home form is poor. So when we go 1-0 up, they just go automatically, they retreat and try and protect it because they've got something to hold on to. And that never works because we always play really well at the start, go 1-0 up, as we did against QPR, as we did against Stoke, as we did against Norwich. And then there's only ever going to be one result. We always concede a sloppy goal either just before half time or just after half time, and then it's just one-way traffic for the rest of the game where you've gone to draw or lose. So for me, it's a mentality issue with the players. We're very wasteful with chances, especially at home. I just think we struggle with the impetus of being the team that has to attack. We're much more happier being the team that can absorb pressure and hit them on the counter. That's why I think away from home was so much better. Last season we were phenomenal away, like we were really good. This season, where it might be what keeps us up, so it's really important to keep that away form going. And we seem to score goals for fun away as well. Like we consistently score away from home. At home, we really struggle to even get more than one. So yeah, no one knows. I think Sayers is probably scratching his head as well because like you say, it's the same set of players that play. The ones that beat Sheffield United 3-0, it's the same team that went and lost 2-1 to QPR. So it's really bizarre. And even if we'd have had a slightly more competent home record, like 2 more wins, we'd be nowhere near the bottom 3. So it's the home form that's really, really hindering us at the minute. And if we go down, it will be the home form that sends us down.
It's funny you mentioned about the team that played against Sheffield United, because obviously we watched that because it mattered to us, and I was like, oh, go on, Hull, fair enough, fair play. But like when you look through the results, it's really odd because you've battered Sheffield United 3-0, worthy winners, could have been more on the night. We watched it. You drew with Leeds, came back from 3-1 down. You've beaten Millwall away from home. But then you look at the home form, you've lost to Doncaster, but you've also lost in recent weeks to Stoke and QPR. Is it the home and away form thing, or is there a reason Hull are particularly better against a Sheffield United or a Leeds, but struggle against like a Doncaster?
No, because I think even if we'd have gone against I think if we'd have had all the sides around us away from home, going into the last few games of the season, I'd be quite confident we'd stay up because I think we'd go there and win. I think that it's just away from home. It's our style of play. It suits us because we've got players that are quite happy to sort of throw their lives on the line, defend, and then exploit the space on the counter and try and win the game that way. But at home, teams are quite happy to let us do the attacking, and we're not very good at that. We wasn't last season. We aren't this season. And I think we really struggle to just carve teams open. So if we'd have gone away from home, for example, and say Plymouth, for example, were the side and they decided to sit with 2 banks of 4 and not attack us, we would probably still struggle. But because it's the home side, they're not going to do that. The impetus is on them to attack. But at home, it is bizarre because, like you say, you'd look at our record, you'd watch us on the telly, like say when we beat Sheffield United 3-0, and you think, why is that team down there? And we say the same. We see what we're capable of, and we see the quality in this team. We sit here constantly and discuss it on my podcast. The players are too good, the manager's too good. Why are we in this situation that we're in? But then you go to a home game, and we know exactly what's going to happen. Like I'm in the mindset now that when you wake up on the morning of a home game, you dread it because you know exactly what's coming. But in an away game like Sunderland, what we've got on Saturday, you're thinking, oh, we might get something from this one. You're quite excited for it. So, but it's genuinely a mystery. I just don't know how we solve it. I mean, we had a fantastic January transfer window, barring not getting a left back, which is a huge problem. We did really good in January. Like Louis Barry, Matt Crooks, Elliot Matazzo. We brought in some really fantastic players. and we still can't win at home. It's just so bizarre. It really is.
I don't know whether you'll know this, but we have a third strip this season, and people were saying, "Oh, it's unlucky because we've lost 5 games this season, and I think 3 of them have come in that blue kit." The one time we won, Hull.
Yeah. Well, Tim Bolter likes to break them trends. I think he was a character for certain. That's I mean, like every team that had, like, West Brom hadn't won in 7 games came to us and won. Luton hadn't won in 8 games. We went there and they won. Oxford hadn't won in like 6 or 7 games. We went there and they won. We were just charity FC to every team that needed a win. It was exhausting. But hopefully it's changed. I mean, away from home it's changed, but at home, shocking.
You touched on your January there. Louis Barry was probably the standout one from a Sunderland fan's perspective. You looked at Geldhart, who, look, it didn't really work for him, but there's so many caveats to the Sunderland situation, which I'm sure Sunderland fans know, so I don't really need to go into it. But Matt Crooks, John Egan, obviously former Sunderland Academy player, but never played for us, but talented boy, experienced. Kyle Joseph, Amrabat, Matazo. You've mentioned a few of them there before. Who stood out for you? And most importantly, how's Joffrey getting on?
Gellart's been really good. I think he had one poor game, and I think it was the Stoke game. But I think he just looked tired because we had played him very, very. He played a lot of minutes by the time that game came around, and we keep playing him in different positions amongst the front three, so he isn't consistently in the same place. But he was absolutely fantastic against Norwich, and he was the spear that sort of launched every single attack that we had. It was his clever link-up play that led to the first goal, obviously getting Coylan down the side as well. He's got a fantastic goal against QPR. I think that if he could add more goals to his game, he'd be a really, really, really good player. But again, if he'd have had more goals to his games, he's probably playing for Leeds. So it's one of those, isn't it? But he works his socks off. He works so hard. He's really good at his interlink play. He'll come back and defend. He's the kind of player you want when you're in a relegation scrap. He's going to be a big player for us. I think I'd like to see him more central behind the striker. I think he's wasted a bit out wide. But we're because of the winger situation we are using him as a wide player at the minute, especially with Pedro and Joseph as the strikers. He's not really going to get in there, and we don't play with a number 10 per se, so he's not going to get in that position either. But no, yeah, he's been really good. The one signing that I think has looked the absolute deal is Elliot Matazo. He's a player I knew nothing of, but a quick look up online, he's played nearly 100 games for Monaco, and he's only just turned 23. I don't think you play nearly 100 games for Monaco if you're a bad player, especially that young. He's played in Champions League games this season, and he came in. He got a goal on his full debut against Stoke. He's strong. He's good on the ball. Goes forward. Not afraid to get stuck in with the challenge. He's technically very good, and he looks a goal threat as well. So I think he could be a big player for us. But the midfield is just like our strongest asset by far, because when we've added Matazo and, like saying, Crooks has got championship experience with Middlesbrough, already got a couple of goals. He's not afraid to stick in a challenge as well. He's added us a bit of height, because we've just, from set pieces, we were absolute right off because we were just a tiny team. Even our centre backs are small for centre backs. Like it's a real problem for us, is set pieces. So we've brought in height with players like Crooks. But Stephen Alzate, I know we didn't sign him in January, but he was a summer signing on free from Brighton. He's easily our best player by far, and he'll probably be a Premier League player in the summer. I can't see us keeping hold of him. He's absolutely fantastic. But that midfield is so strong for us. The defence is the weak point, 100%. We don't score enough goals. We're very wasteful, but I think that's the symptom of having a very young team. There's only really, Pedro in there that's got a bit of experience out of Crooks now that we've added as well. But other than that, it's very young forward line, and I think they struggle with that bit of composure and that mentality in the final third kind of thing. So we don't score enough goals and we don't keep enough clean sheets. So that's why we're in the position we're in. But hopefully, like saying, Louis Barry coming in looks very good. He had his first start. He's only had a couple of bench cameos up until the Norwich game. He started against Norwich, looked very bright, was linking up very well with Sean McLaughlin on the left. He's definite threat cutting on his right foot, and I think it's only a matter of time before he gets his first goal and up and running. He scored 15 in 20-something for Stockport. I know it's in the level below, but he's a goal scorer. Like, he's got a striker's record from the wing, so he'll be a big player for us if he gets his first goal, I think. And we're excited because I think once these players properly bed in and settle into the system and we get going, I think we can get a run going. It's just getting that monkey off the back and getting that first home win in God knows however long, because apparently we can only beat the Welsh teams at home this season. So Bristol City might be a win when they come. That'll be okay. But we've signed a lot of potential. It's just getting it out of him now. We've really got to turn it on, or else we are in trouble.
One player who came to Sunderland last year with a lot of potential, and we spoke about him in the last podcast. Look, I'll be honest, the poor lad, he's only a kid, and everyone has a poor spell somewhere, but Mason Burstow was possibly one of the worst strikers I've seen in a Sunderland shirt, which, look, there's plenty of competition there. I'm sure there's much worse, but he's not had the easiest of years because of his loan spell at Sunderland didn't work, basically, and he hasn't scored that many at all. But how's he getting on for you?
He's actually been quite good. I mean, you're always a bit wary because we heard from Stoke and Preston fans that Liam Delap was horrendous, and he's phenomenal. And now look at him. And then we heard the same about Philogene from Cardiff fans. And this is the thing. Like sometimes it just takes a different system or a different manager to get the best out of a player. By no means have we seen the best of Mason Burstow, I don't think, but we haven't played him as a striker. We play him as a winger, and you can see that the effort's there, the endeavour's there, but he isn't a winger. That's the nicest way I can say about it. He scored a couple of goals, but I really would like to see him get a run as the middle guy, but that's not going to happen because he's third in the pecking order behind Pedro and Joseph. So he's kind of a bit part cameo off the bench kind of player now. So when you see his minutes, he isn't really a starter. He was always brought in to be a long-term striker. He wasn't meant to have an impact this season, I don't think. But given the circumstances of the summer window, he ended up having more of a role than he expected to. We tried to loan him out in January, which I think is the right move. We offered him to a few League One clubs. I think maybe his wages were a bit too high for him because none of them ever really amounted to anything. But then apparently the club accepted a bid from Plymouth to loan him for the rest of the season, which would be absolute insanity because they're down there with us. So if he scored enough goals to keep him up, it would be one of the worst moves ever, which Selles had to then say, no, what are you doing? He's not going to Plymouth. So he had to cancel it himself. But it is quite gutting that he didn't get out to go get some proper minutes. We brought him on off the bench against Norwich, which was surprising considering we had obviously Kamara and Amrabat as the wing options that he could bring on. So it was quite an eye-opener. But he has got talent there, and you can see it. There have been his performance against Swansea at home, which is one of our only 2 wins this season, was phenomenal. And I'm looking at him and I'm going by, I remembered what you said about him, and I've got those words in my mind when I'm watching him on the pitch, and I'm like, he's not a bad player. He's not, but he's not playing in his position. So I think next season we could do well with sending him out on loan for a full year, get him a consistent run of games as a striker, as that number 9 for a team, maybe in League One, so he gets, he's starting every week. And let's see what he can do, because he's a good lad and he's got talent. It's just getting it out of him. Can we get it out of him now? Because we've got him for the next 3 or 4 years. He is a long-term project. So it's now, does he have the experience as a cameo bench player here, or does he go somewhere and play regularly on loan and then we bring him back a more complete player? So I think that's the way we've got to go with it.
I think confidence is a big thing as well, if I'm being fair. Like, if you've had a year on loan at Sunderland and you scored 1 goal, which was, you almost missed an open goal, you just got it in, it's going to take a battering. And if he's not scored in his first few games at Hull, and we've talked about how the start of your season went, so that's me being balanced and fair. There we go. Look, after ourselves, you've got a really important run of fixtures. You've got Cardiff at home, Plymouth away, Bristol City away. You've also got Luton at home in like the next 5-6 weeks. So you've got loads of massive games in terms of the context of your season. How do Hull fans view Saturday's game at Sunderland? And like, with the fact you've got so many big games coming up, like you get to that point in the season where you're going, we need this many points from this many games, aren't you?
I think we know that this is our proper last. I think this is the last time we play a team that's currently in the top 4. I think we've got Sheffield United. No, we've already played Sheffield United twice. Yeah, so you're the last team that we play from the top 4. So I think it's one of these that we go into it expecting nothing, but knowing that we could get something. It's one of those. It depends on what version of us turns up. If the version that played against Burnley turns up, then we'll lose 2 or 3-0. But if the version that turns up against Leeds and Sheffield United, then we could grab something. We're under no illusions how good Sunderland are as a team this year. We know full well our frailties and our weaknesses, and I'm pretty sure Sunderland will know our frailties and weaknesses, especially in that left-back position where we're currently playing a centre-half, which is a real problem for the next few months of relegation battle. But that's on us for not bringing a left-back in when we had the chance. Could have got Charlie Taylor, and we turned him away because he wanted to wait a bit and explore his options. So we said, right, if you don't want to play for us, then we're not having you. Still think that's a massive mistake, but here we are. So it's one of those that we know, because it's an away game, we've more chance of winning this game than it would be if it was a home match. But especially with Sunderland's quality out wide and in the middle, the midfield battle will be so huge. He's got to get his team selection right, I think, to get something from this one. We've got the quality in midfield to really do the battle and mix it up, as shown against some of the teams that are at the top end. It's just that Sunderland's wingers, especially obviously playing Lafay out there, and Mundell's back now as well, isn't he? And Patrick Roberts is always a danger. And we've got real frailties in the fullback positions. Even Louis Coyle and Cody Drama, who are the right backs at the minute, they're both horribly inconsistent, just so poor all season fullback. We've got like the worst set of fullbacks in the league by far. It's a real problem, but Sunderland can get a lot of joy out there. So if we can try and get a tactic set up that nullifies that threat out wide, maybe doubling up with wingers coming back and stuff, then we can get something. But we're under no illusions that we might come away with nothing. But I don't think anyone expects it, kind of thing. We just know we can.
I find it funny that you're saying you got no fullbacks. That's how bad Ryan Giles was for you. You still let him go.
Yeah, we'd rather play a centre back and left back than play Ryan Giles. And then he's done a few howlers at Middlesbrough as well. He's got an own goal and been responsible for a couple of goals. So he's just, Giles is a write-off, I think.
Pretty good striker when it comes to Sunderland, put it that way.
Yeah, it was funny, to be fair. It brought a lot of joy to our Twitter feed.
I noticed that. I enjoyed it as well, to be honest, but I'll not brag too much because we've had a bad week. Look, I asked at the start of the season who was the one player you take from Sunderland's team to put into a Hull's team, but now that you've played us, I'm going to change that a little bit. You touched on a few players before. Going back to our last game, the 1-0 win at the MKM, which Sunderland player stood out for you most? Who was the most impressive?
Isidore. He's unreal, isn't he? He's and I'm sure you signed him for like 3 mil or something, aren't you, in January as well?
3
which
mil.
is just like
ridiculous.
Value for money is in the Championship for a striker like that. That's absolutely insane. Was that a pre-agreed fee when you did the loan then?
I think we had an agreement in place to sign him if we wanted to, like towards the end of the season. And I have a feeling, I mean, I don't know, but I think we've accelerated it. But there was already links today that Spurs have been looking at him. But like, look, he's not going to fit an Ange team, is he?
No.
He's more like more like an Henry.
Centre back.
Yes, exactly. but absolute bargain, mate. And look, I know there was controversy, quote unquote, about the goal, but the run to score it, one of the best.
Fantastic finish, and that's the kind of player that can get you promoted. It is. He's a striker who, even his goal against Leeds, I mean, as bad as Ampadu was in that situation, the composure and the strength he's shown and the finish. Brilliant. Like, I think if Sunderland had carried on taking the game to Leeds, which is where their frailties lie, I think the big issue that everybody makes in this league with Leeds is they sit back and let them attack. If you take the game to them, they're real frail at the back. As we showed at home against them, like if you run at them, they hate it. But if you let them play, they will beat you, and that's what Sunderland did, I think, on Monday night. But yeah, Isidore is a fantastic player, and I think that if you're going to get promoted, it will be because you signed him in summer initially. Like, what a guy! That, like you say, the finish at our ground, like the distance he's ran. I mean, I think Drama could do so much better when he's standing him up, but he's still got so much to do, and he does it and some. So yeah, he's some boy. But I think I said Sirkin was who I'd take last time, wasn't it? And definitely with our left back situation at the minute, he's 100%. Sirkin, we need it. I mean, I'd take even your third choice left back at the minute. I think whoever he is, but no, yeah, you've got a team. I mean, look at Roberts, look at Lafay, look at Dan Neil. I mean, even O'Neill, as much as I hate him, he's a good player. Like he's one of those. You've got a good team. I think you took everyone by surprise this season, I think, because apart from Gabe Sutton, who had you to win the league. But what a call that was, by the way. But no, yeah, you've got a really good team. But Isidore, I think, has been your standout for me as a neutral.
Because my voice is slowly waning here, I'm going to go straight to predictions. I'm not at the game on Saturday. I'm in Rome. If I survive any longer, I've got a really shitty feeling that it's going to be 1-1.
Yeah, that's not beyond the realms of possibilities. We do like a 1-1. We don't keep clean sheets, so Sunderland will probably definitely. I mean, I say that we had 3 clean sheets in a row away from home, so we're more likely to have a clean sheet away. I just think Sunderland have got too much for us. I'm gonna go 2-1 Sunderland. I think we go 1-0 up, and then we just suffer a barrage in the second half and end up losing out.
I think it's funny, that might be the only time I've predicted a better result for the opposition and the opposition's predicted a better result for us.
You'd be hard pressed to find a City fan who predicts us to win anything at the minute, to be fair. Like, we're quite realistic, I think, at the minute, and in pain. So We'll take anything, but we're more than likely going to lose this one. But that's okay because we've got our fate's in our hands. We know this season's the big games are after this one. If we can get something from this, it's a bonus. But we've got all the teams around us to play it. The problem is that it's all at home, so that might be the problem. But we've got Luton to come at home, we've got Plymouth to come at home, Oxford to come at home, Derby to come at home. So it's in our own hands, is our fate. So our season won't be defined by this game, just as it wasn't by Burnley. But we're looking for a performance. I'm happy to, if we take defeat from the Stadium of Light, but we've played well and we've really done account of ourselves, that gives me more optimism for the remaining games than it would be if we got turned over like we did at Burnley. But yeah, this is going to be a tough game. But I think Sunderland got too much for us.
Anyone's wondering why I sounded so like defeatist and said 1-1. Well, my voice, I'm not well. I'm meant to be going on holiday tomorrow. I'm meant to be buying a house and selling a house in the next 2 weeks. And I went to Leeds on Monday, so I'll end it on that. I'm not that sad. I feel like it'll be a 2-1 come Friday morning. But thanks for putting out with my croaky voice, mate. Cheers.
No worries. Thank you for having me on. Always a pleasure. Good luck for the season. Obviously, after as well, it'd be nice to see a new team in the promotion mix, I think.